A list of potential VP picks includes Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
The chaos that he injected into our lives, we don't want to go back to that, gang. We don't want to go back to that. Hell no, right?
Several other VP contenders joined a massive fundraising Zoom call last night. It was billed as White Dudes for Harris and raised more than $4 million.
Donald Trump's unfitness for office is clear.
How often in 100 days do you get to change the trajectory of the world?
Here's the interesting thing about the vice presidential decision. It's an opportunity for Kamala Harris to show her stature as the future president of the United States and to make a decision of extraordinary significance.
So there's some of the short list of contenders for Kamala Harris to pick for her vice presidential choice, to round out her ticket, to make sure that fascism is pushed back in this country, to make sure our democracy is saved, to make sure, just for the sanity we all need of Donald Trump, to not win another term and unleash utter chaos on our nation. So who will she choose? And more importantly, really, the question is, who should she choose to make sure that eventuality, that victory, that future for our country is most likely to happen? And people are debating, could it possibly be a second woman on the ticket? Could it possibly be a second person of color? Could it be a gay person? Could it be a Jewish person? People are being considered in all of those categories. And my opinion, and I'm very curious to hear yours in the comments, my opinion is that it should not be. Of course, it could be. I wish that weren't an issue we needed to consider, but it is one we need to consider in this country. Pete Buttigieg, probably the most effective communicator for the Democratic Party. He's a gay man, and I just don't know if the country at large is ready. I don't know if we can get Trump voters or undecided people to vote for a gay man on the number 2 position on ticket when there's already a black Indian woman, the first Indian woman, the first black woman, the first woman in general to potentially become the president. Obviously, Hillary Clinton ran as a woman and did not win. That would be very large change for our country, one that is long overdue. And I think we need to ensure it happens by making a safe pick for vice president. Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania, a very important state to win in the electoral map and many different versions of how Harris could win. He's Jewish. I think it's too risky. I'm Jewish. It would be really cool to have a Jewish vice president. I think it's too risky. Kamala Harris's husband is already Jewish, and right now there is, unfortunately, a large amount of rising anti-Semitism in this country, and it would be great to combat that. But again, we can't combat so many of these things if we lose, and I just don't know that it is worth the risk. I don't think our country is ready for a ticket with 2 people of color, even though there are some incredibly talented people like Wes Moore, like Raphael Warnock, like Cory Booker that could be considered. But I think the safe bet is what should probably be done. I'm not alone in thinking this. Aside from the memes that instantly popped up when Harris emerged as the likely nominee for the Democrats, were memes saying white wine choices, showing a white wine menu, or white paint swabs and saying, here are some dependable whites that you can choose from, or crisp whites, or medium whites, or rich whites you can choose from a wine menu. And it's a funny joke, but it probably is accurate. Aside from internet memes, here's an excerpt I'd like to read to you from The Washington Post. Responding to those memes and even a Daily Show segment, The Washington Post wrote, if the tone was wry, it also reflected the near instantaneous assessment that hardened among lawmakers in Washington, strategists, and operatives throughout the country, as well as ordinary voters, that Harris, who is black and Indian American, and if elected would make history as the first female president, must choose someone white as her running mate, and preferably a white guy. Kimberly Peeler Allen, co-founder of the Higher Heights for America, a group focused on mobilizing and electing black women, said that because of racism and sexism, both latent and overt, a white statesman as a validator can help buoy a historic first as the nominee. She pointed to Barack Obama's selection of Biden as his running mate in 2008. Quote, regardless of the voter's race, it is both white voters and voters of color, there is something comforting or reassuring about having something that looks familiar to what we've had for the last 250 years in our nation's history of elected leadership, Peeler Allen said. That's very interesting that even among voters of color, it seems that many would be more comfortable if at least one of the people on the ticket in this round were white. Maybe it's because they too share the fear that I do that a ticket with 2 people of color or perhaps 2 women would not win. And so I think in this incredibly rare moment, I've always advocated for sometimes individual groups of people need to, for the greater good, put on hold the advancement of their individual group when the entire experiment, when the entire project, when the entire nation, when the democracy is at risk. They need to, for a quick moment, take a back seat so that hopefully the nation doesn't devolve so much further that rights for their group and many others don't backslide even further into a place that won't be fixed for decades to come. And so sometimes you need to make a smart choice politically, a safe choice politically, that can broaden the appeal of this already historic ticket. When you had an old white straight man at the top of the ticket until just a couple of weeks ago, to make people feel like the country's not changing too fast for them. Again, that's not how I wish it were. I wish we could change and evolve faster. I wish we could let go of any vestiges of prejudice or bias in our brains. But that is simply not the reality of how a lot of people's brains still are. People accept change very trepidatiously and very slowly, and we need to make sure that we win. And so I think the choice will probably be Governor Walz or Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. And if I had to guess, I think it'll be Mark Kelly. He's got the most incredible resume, being both a veteran and an astronaut and married to Gabby Giffords from a state that would be wonderful to win, Arizona. I think we can probably still, with Josh Shapiro's help, win Pennsylvania and other essential swing states. But my guess is that it will be Mark Kelly. He's tough, he's rugged, he's maybe not as good of a communicator as some of these other choices. But as a biography, as a demographic choice, as a safe choice, I think he is a bold yet safe choice, and I think it gives us the best shot to defeat Trump come November. That's my thoughts. What do you think? I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram for lots more.